So I'm here with James Ehnes, Grammy Award winning violin soloist and friend, of course, of the Sarasota Orchestra and of me. Delighted to be here with you, James. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you, Dan.
Good to see you too. So we're talking about life in a quarantine, but also I wanted to ask you specifically, and the reason for this interview is because we are doing a broadcast, or WSMR 89.1, the local radio station here, is doing a broadcast of a recent collaboration from January 2019 when we played Shostakovich Violin Concerto with you as the soloist. And they will be broadcasting that this Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, and also we'll have it on their website for a month. So I wanted to ask you about that performance, why that piece, and what it was like to play with the Sarasota Orchestra.
Well, it's a really happy memory. I mean, on a personal level, playing with the Sarasota Orchestra. I mean, it's you guys are like family. That it's the orchestra that is the closest thing I have to a hometown orchestra. I live just 30 minutes up the road. So many of you I've known and have been good friends with for half my life. So right now it's a particularly poignant memory, thinking about being with all of you guys and making music together and doing what we love. Because I think one of the most frustrating things of this period at home for me, I've been at home now for over 2 months and I don't get to see you guys. And I know that you're just literally just down the road, 20 miles from here or whatever it is. That's really, really hard because, so often when we're in touch throughout the year, it's like, hey, James, where are you? And I'm who knows where. And it's like, well, we'll have to get together when I'm back in Florida. And now I'm in Florida. Why can't we hang out? But that performance, I remember, so much about it musically. And I just remember so much about it personally, the collaboration and just the fun times that we have. I mean, I guess this was probably maybe my fourth or fifth performance with the Sarasota Orchestra over the years.
I would think at least,
But
there's been a bunch.
yeah, it was my only chance working with Anu Tali, who I had met briefly years ago, but we'd never had the chance to work together. So I was really happy to get to work with her during her tenure here, because of course, like I said before, this is my hometown orchestra, and I follow things and go to concerts and like to stay involved. But as far as choosing the piece, I don't really remember exactly how that all went down. I think that it was one of those things. At one point there was a discussion of what might you want to play, and I think it was my suggestion. I think because I'm always happy to play that piece. I mean, it's such an emotionally powerful experience, and I just thought it would be a fantastic experience for me personally to get to play that with all of you guys, and to play it in my home area, have my family come and all that. So and also it seemed like a piece that Anu was very enthusiastic about as well. So yeah, I think it came from that.
So what is special about that piece for you?
Well, I think that it's one of the most sort of extreme emotional musical experiences that one can have. It deals with, I think, very strong and very raw emotions. Which is not to say that it doesn't have subtlety, and it's also not to say that pieces that deal with more subtle emotions are not as powerful. But it's just that the atmosphere of the Shostakovich. I mean, there is so much intensity and so much darkness to the piece. I think that it's really emotionally draining to play and emotionally draining to listen to. Physically, it's very taxing as a violinist too. From the third movement through this enormous cadenza that links the third and the fourth movements right through to the end of the piece, you're playing pretty much constantly and really, really grinding away. So it becomes almost like I hesitate to call it like an athletic kind of feat, because one feels emotionally with this piece and the sort of subtext and the darkness of the piece that it's like if one were to be running and getting really tired, but somebody's chasing you, I find it to be just one of the most amazing experiences. I feel very lucky every time I get to play it.
So it speaks to some of the challenges that artists have had over the decades and the centuries. Shostakovich and the repression of the Soviet regime. Artists now dealing with a pandemic and trying to share our art. It's amazing how much amazing art was created during times of great political and social upheaval.
Well, Shostakovich, I think one can study him and learn a good lesson in the value of patience. Right now, I think that a lot of musicians, a lot of performing artists are feeling very impatient. They want to get out and get working and spreading the music or whatever that art form may be. But Shostakovich wrote this piece, if I'm recalling, in 1948, and knew that the climate was absolutely not right to release the piece. He had been severely censured by the government, meaning Stalin himself, earlier, and he did not want to go down that path again. So he basically kept the piece in a drawer in a fully completed state for 6 years until Stalin died, and then he realized that the time was right to release it. And it's incredible. You think of how that must have eaten at him, knowing that he had this incredible masterpiece that he couldn't share with anybody. But yeah, one of my more remarkable experiences was, I think it was the second or third time that I played the piece. I was with a wonderful conductor who's become a very, very good friend named Victor Yampolsky. And Victor, when I was playing with him, he's quite a bit older than me. And he said, I've known this piece longer than anyone. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, you're Russian and this and that. And then he said, no, I mean it, longer than anyone. And he explained that his father was Vladimir Yampolsky, who was David Oistrak's regular pianist. So there was, in fact, a period of 6 years when Victor was a very little boy, that the only people in the world that knew that piece were Shostakovich, Oistrakh, and Vladimir Yampolsky and his son Victor. So that was kind of a cool connection to have to it.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. So speaking of patience, what are you up to? How are you managing to share your violin playing with people, with the world? What are your plans? What's going on?
Well, things are changing all the time. I've done a few of these virtual projects, and they started in the early days. I mean, I was messing around with a couple of friends with our phones, playing through some silly little piece for 3 violins, and one of us got our friend Jun Iwasaki, the concertmaster in Nashville. He said, "Oh, let me stitch this together," and he put it up on some social media channel, and people really liked it. It's like, huh, they like it? Okay. And so, then I've done a few things since that have over time gotten a little bit more technologically involved. And when it all started, I think everyone was just trying to figure out some way to share the art form, share the product. But musicians are creative people by nature, and I think that it's been really fun to see the leaps and bounds that the technology is getting better and better all the time, or certainly people's understanding of the technology is better and better all the time. So I actually got myself a nice pair of mics and had the happy realization that my living room actually sounds really nice. So I can do things from there. And I did a recital for the Prague Spring Festival the other day that's going to be airing on their website, I think next week maybe. Just this past 24 hours, the Dresden Music Festival has done this Music Never Sleeps project, 24 hours. It was basically the musicians that were due to appear at the Dresden Music Festival. We each recorded 20 minutes or so of music, and I did something for a fundraiser gala for, it was organized by Gramophone Magazine for Help Musicians UK. And so I've done some things like that. And it's, every one of them has felt a little out of my comfort zone, put up my camera phone and hit record and turn on the mics. And it's a strange world, but we're all doing the best we can. And I'm looking forward in the next couple of weeks to actually doing some much more sort of serious recording work from my home. The downside being that I have to do it in the middle of the night because it's the only time that's quiet.
So this is a profession that's sort of been stuck, if not in the 20th century, maybe even in the 19th century, just in terms of what we've offered as a concert experience for most people. So it's interesting to see how this is now evolving into a more 21st century experience. We're not doing it out of choice, but I hope there might be some good that comes out of this whole thing in the end, just in terms of how we connect with potential listeners, how we can connect with people that have technology as such a part of their lives. Where do you see, if this continues for a while, where do you see the concert experience going in the next several months?
Well, I think in the next several months, it's already clear that there really won't be much, if any, live performance over the next few months, and that's very hard to accept. But it is what it is. I totally agree with you that we are now being forced to explore things that we really should have been exploring long before now. We're learning skills that I think are going to come in very handy in the future. In the shorter term, I think that it's been very valuable what performers and organizations have learned about reaching an audience, about providing content that an audience responds to, about learning what that content is. I think in the future, people are social creatures, and I'm an optimistic person, and I really believe that music is something that live music performance and the social aspect as well of live music performance, of people getting together to experience the art in person together. I think it's irreplaceable. I think it will come back. But that being said, I think that we're understanding better ways to bring it to people who can't be in the concert hall, and we're understanding better, I think, the value of what we have. In terms of, I guess I would call it digital content, filmed or recorded content. I think that with performers have had such a strong belief, which I believe is the correct belief, that nothing can replace or really can even approach the live music experience, that I think we have maybe been guilty as an industry of treating particularly video performance as something of not a great deal of value other than sort of a marketing hook. It's like we will put out there a video of a performance thinking, well, really all we're trying to do with this is use this as a hook to get people into our halls. So it's been a supplement to the actual product. But right now, it's the only product we have. And that's a very interesting change. And I think it's leading to some very interesting thought and conversation about the value of what we do, how we can do it best, and how ultimately it also becomes part of the economics of our world. We've got a lot of wonderful musicians out there that are doing something of value and need to be compensated for it. So how do we find that balance? I can't remember who said it. It seems like a Yogi Berra comment, but it probably was him, that if people don't want to come, you can't stop them. And if with what we're creating, when we're putting stuff out in these days, that whether it's videos that we're producing from home or videos that we're stitching together of players from an orchestra, that are all recording their little bits. If we don't do it well, we can't make people watch it. And I think that in a way, being an optimistic guy, I think that this sort of pressure to create something of value, I think it's a good thing. I think it's going to spur us on to doing things better than in the past when it was like, it's really just a side bit of the main show. Right now, it is the main show, so we have to show that we can do it as well and as effectively as possible.
Right. So tell me about, you've spent your years being on the road a lot, traveling a ton. You've been stuck at home, but you live in this amazing place. The Sarasota Bradenton area you have to be stuck somewhere. This isn't a bad place to live. So
100%, yeah.
First of all, why did you decide to live here when you could basically live anywhere? And what have you been doing to kind of enjoy the Florida weather and the lifestyle here?
Well, as you know, my wife Kate was a ballet dancer, and her first job was with the Sarasota Ballet. That was quite a few years ago now, but she moved down here, and then I followed her down here, and it just became home. When you live in such a nice place, relatives want to come visit. So then relatives started coming to visit, and then they discovered, oh, this really is a nice place. And then they started moving down. And before we knew it, my sister and Kate's brother and Kate's sister and both of our sets of parents, everyone was moving down to Florida, and so that made it even more home. We're very grateful to live here because A, as you say, it's a very beautiful place, but B, it's such a great community of people, and for us, the real basis of that community of people is you guys at the Sarasota Orchestra. You are our family, and I think that you can live in a lot of places, and logic tells you that it's like, well, I could live in various places, and there would be a local orchestra, and those people would be my friends, and I would be happy there, and what would really the difference be? But in my heart, I kind of really know deep down that this is a special situation. The way that this orchestra works together and cares about each other. I think that's different. It's different than other places, and I think that that's been a big part of why we stay here. And when people say, "Oh, I went down to Sarasota and I was just so impressed with what a wonderful, artistic, engaging community that is," I say, "Yeah, absolutely, it totally is." But don't tell too many people because we don't need more people making it more crowded.
Well, we feel the same way about you. We feel like we're really lucky to have you in this community, and we consider you to be a great friend to us personally and the organization. I thought I'd ask you a few, do a little lightning round here of questions. It's my quarantine edition lightning round, and put us on gallery view here. Okay, so I have 9 questions for you. You know how this works, I assume, that you're supposed to answer like either a word or a sentence. It's not supposed to be a long answer. So
okay, no hard questions, all right?
Okay, they're not too hard. First question is, get up early or stay up late? Or both, I guess, maybe for you.
These days, both. Oh, man.
All right. I was going to ask this, but although I think I might see that you haven't gotten one yet, is who does your haircuts?
Oh yeah, no one. It's bad. I know.
I have Spencer, my 7-year-old, doing mine, so he takes the clippers.
Oh,
and just
he's doing a nice job.
It's been a new experience having a 7-year-old cut your hair. So
you're a brave guy, Dan.
Thank you. Okay, morning beverage of choice.
English breakfast tea with a little bit of milk.
Okay, is that what you're drinking right now? I've seen you.
It is actually. Yeah, it's sort of like my all-day drip.
Excellent. Evening/adult beverage of choice.
These days, because I'm working at night, it's more tea. But honestly, when I turned 40, I realized that I don't have to be embarrassed that I really like cheap American beer. Nothing makes me more happy than a Coors Light. Get it nice and cold so the mountain turns blue. It's the best.
Yeah, James and I may or may not have had several of those together.
I don't recall. No.
Okay, work clothes or pajamas?
Huh. You know, under normal circumstances, I'd say pajamas, but these days I kind of miss putting on my monkey suit, you know?
Yes. I have not put mine on yet, but I did put on at least a collared shirt for this today.
That's great. Thanks for making the effort.
Yes, exactly. Favorite music to listen to? I guess favorite kind of music too, or if you have anything specific.
Um, the music that I play, but not so much violin music actually. Mainly, I guess I'd say orchestral music.
And what about your favorite music to practice for fun if you're not getting ready for something? Bach, Paganini?
I'm like, sorry, don't understand the question. Um, I guess I'd say Bach. We're just so lucky as violinists to have Bach to play.
I think about that too, that, we're not without live music in our lives because we can actually perform it, at least for ourselves or our families. So we are
Yeah.
lucky with that. Take out or cook at home?
Huh. Again, I would say under normal circumstances, I would say cook at home. And these days, I'm like, oh, I miss going to restaurants.
That is definitely true. Um, Weight gained or weight lost during the quarantine?
Weight lost.
Oh, very good.
Mm.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, and last question is favorite, you may not even have time for this, but favorite TV show for streaming?
Oh, did we talk about this? I don't remember if I told you this Spanish show called La Casa de Papel, Money Heist. It's on Netflix and it's awesome. It's great.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I just want to thank you so much for doing this with us. Again, May 19th, which is this Tuesday, James playing Shostakovich Concerto with Sarasota Orchestra will be broadcast on WSMR 89.1, and it will be up on their website for the next month. So I hope people will check it out. Good luck to you. It's nice to talk to you, and
Great to talk to you,
do
Dan.
this again sometime.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, James.
Thank you.